There's a strange trend in Australia. Parents who choose independent schools for their children are being told, in subtle and not so subtle ways, they should feel guilty for it. It's not just a few politicians or activist unions, it's a growing pile-on from think tanks, lobby groups and commentators who've decided school choice is something to criticise rather than respect. They argue that education is a zero-sum game, that if a family chooses an independent school, they're somehow taking something away from the public system. But that's simply not how education works, and it's certainly not how families see it.
Those families are making enormous sacrifices so that they can continue to provide that choice and to provide that education to their child. But right now, those families are feeling under attack.
Independent Schools Australia has travelled the country, from the suburbs of Sydney to the heart of the Northern Territory. We've met parents, teachers and school leaders who are doing everything they can to support their communities. We've sat with families who are renting out rooms or working second jobs to afford fees, not because they're wealthy, but because they believe in the school they've chosen. We've seen special assistance schools helping young people recover from trauma, faith-based schools welcoming refugee families with open arms, and boarding schools giving Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander students access to life-changing education hundreds of kilometres from home. These families aren't unusual. They are the reality for tens of thousands of independent school families across Australia, and yet right now, their choice is under attack.
The Australian private school system is a leech on public education.
The rhetoric is vitriolic, but most importantly, it is simply not true. Under the current funding model, an independent school student receives, on average, $10,000 less in government funding than a public school student, and students at higher fee schools receive even less. That's because the system is built on two simple principles. Every student deserves some support from government, no matter what school they attend, and for non-government schools, that support is adjusted based on what parents are able to contribute. It's a means-tested model, and it sounds fair, doesn't it? Independent schools also support tens of thousands of vulnerable students, 157,000 students with disability, 19,000 Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander students, 15,500 students in special assistance schools, and more than 140,000 students in regional and remote areas. And these are just not some numbers on some spreadsheet. These are real students with real needs in real communities.
They've not only helped me become a well-rounded student at Bergman, I've been able to become a well-rounded individual. And my parents came from India as migrants, so they had to sacrifice a lot for me to be able to go to an independent school. And I think their decision was able to make both me and my brother thrive.
New research tells us just how hard independent school families are working to protect that opportunity. 26% are cutting back on essentials like food, medicine and fuel. 78% would need to make major financial changes if fees increased. And 46% say they would reconsider voting for any party whose policy means school fees will rise. This is why we've launched the School Choice Counts campaign, to fight for the students, families and communities who deserve a voice this election, to fight for our 716,000 students and a wider voter community of 2.5 million. We're calling on all parties to commit to 5 clear policies that support fairness, respect diversity and keep education focused on students. 1. Protecting family choice. With stable, predictable funding so parents aren't forced to pay more in a cost of living crisis. 2. Ending the blame game. Stop the division. Support all students in all schools, public, Catholic and independent. 3. Supporting our most vulnerable students. Fair, adequate funding for students with disability, First Nations students and those in special assistance schools. 4. Investing in cross-sector innovation. A $50 million fund to scale successful programs across all school sectors that support learning, well-being and teacher retention. And 5, building choice into the future. Independent schools are growing 4 times faster than any other school sector. Australians are voting with their feet. We are calling for expanded capital funding and stronger support for growing schools, especially in regional areas.
Federal funding instability is a concern because it directly impacts our families, some of whom make major sacrifices to send their child to St Stephen's. For us, this upcoming election is all about choice. It's about choice of education and a family's right to choose what is right for their child, their children in the educational landscape.
Across Australia, families are asking for fairness, not favouritism. They support public schools, they believe in choice, and they're tired of being caught in a political blame game. So what can you do? Visit schoolchoicecounts.isa.edu.au. Download the campaign toolkit for schools and for parents, use our social media tiles and frames, and write to your local MP and candidates to tell them school choice matters.
This isn't about politics. It's about children, it's about families, and it's about education. It's very personal. It's personal for hundreds and thousands of families around Australia. And they'll remember ultimately who stood up for them, who stood up for their right to choose, and who sought to deny them that choice.
Independent school families are voters. They are taxpayers, and they are not going away. No family should ever be punished for making a choice for their child's education. That's what this campaign is about, and that's why your voice matters.